So welcome everyone. Look at us, Goody. We have moved up in the world, and today with betsafe.com we are going to preview the Autumn Internationals. What's happened?
We've gone up in the world. We've got our own studio, we've got our own screen. We're on fire.
Mate, we look good. We look
showbiz
good on
lifestyle, right?
Mate, this is showbiz.
This is showbiz.
Look, I've got my iPad in my hand. We've got all the details on there, but we're going to move swiftly on. We've gone away from sitting there in an office. We've moved up in the world. Look at us. We're absolutely pumped. But don't forget,
you've even come suited and booted. I like it.
First time.
Smart.
Got me poppy on. Got me poppy on. Look good. But don't forget, regardless of what we're doing and how far we've moved up in the world, BetSafe is still the principal partner and sponsor of who is it?
Saracens.
Yeah, that's right, Saracens. Let's move swiftly in. So we're changing tack. We're going away from the Premiership. We're going away from the Champions Cup, Goody. We're into the big time, the internationals, the autumn tests.
Yeah, we are. Autumn internationals. They actually started last weekend. Australia played Japan over in Japan and won very comfortably. And then we saw a fantastic fixture at Twickenham. The All Blacks taking on the Barbarians. The Barbarians did well, didn't they? You've played for the Barbarians. Such a privilege to play for a team that international rugby players get thrown together, 1 week's training, then off you go and play the best team in the world. And they ran them close, didn't they?
Mate, they did, and to be fair, the reason they did that is because half of them were New Zealand. In fact, most of them were Kiwis, so that's why they were so good.
So off the back of that, we're going to preview all the autumn internationals this weekend. We're going to start off at Twickenham with England against Argentina. We're going to go to the Principality Stadium in Wales to see them take on the mighty Australian team. Ireland, we're going to look at them against the South Africans. And then finally in France, Paris, the French take on the mighty All Blacks.
So, Goody, we're going to look at the England-Argentina game first up. England, arguably the form team. Argentina, they've struggled this last season.
They have. They've only won 1 of their 9 games, and they've had some tough games within that. Obviously, in the Championship, Rugby Championship over in the Southern Hemisphere, but they did win 1 game. Jim, do you know who they beat?
South Africa.
No, absolutely wrong.
Australia.
Georgia. Only Georgia.
Okay,
Georgia.
Yeah, I knew that.
One of your very few international wins, was it?
It was, that was right, yeah.
But obviously, England are firm favourites to win at Twickenham. Really interesting. Obviously, England went to Argentina in the summer as well, didn't they? Had a 2-match series over there with a team massively depleted, obviously, because the Lions tore, but still won 2-0. So I expect England to win. But you've picked out a few forwards for us, haven't you, Jim, to see who's going to start?
Yeah, I have. I'm with you. I think it's a foregone conclusion that England will win the game. I've picked out a couple of forwards who I think should be playing, could be playing, and probably the informed players. With the injuries to Billy Vunipola, I've gone for Sam Simmonds first up. I think we've all seen, anyone who's watched the Premiership or the Champions Cup, they would have seen this guy tearing up trees. This man can carry a ball. He's powerful. There's whispers that Eddie Jones doesn't see him as an 8. He sees him more in that 6 or 7 mould. James Haskell's no longer in the squad. Someone like Sam Simmonds can fill that void that he did with an added bit of power.
I think he's a brilliant ball carrier. He's done really well for Exeter, deservedly so in the squad. A young guy coming in. Does he get to start? I think Eddie Jones might keep him on the bench and just release him off the bench later on, but my goodness, he is one of the form players in England and probably deserves to start. Yeah,
I was going to mention Tom Curry as well, special mention for him. Twins with Ben. But Tom went on the Argentina tour that we spoke about. They got the win over there. The youngest back row player, the youngest flanker to ever start for England. He's a fantastic player. I'm not sure if he's quite ready, but I'm picking out Sam Simmonds in the back row. If we don't see him feature in this game, I think over the autumn series we'll definitely see him.
And then we go to the front row, Jim, and let's talk about one of your mates. I'm sure you're going to tell me this guy, Jamie George, should start for England.
I made him. Jamie George for England. Look. This is a difficult scenario, isn't it? Jamie George, we've seen him there. We saw him in the British Lions tour, the starting hooker. He's up against Dylan Hartley, who's the captain. We all know, okay? Eddie Jones is a big fan of Dylan, okay? But Jamie George, for me, is the better player. If you've watched the season so far, is Jamie the form hooker in the Premiership? I don't know.
I think he is.
Yeah. All I know is, though, he's playing significantly better than Dylan. And, this is no slight on Dylan. Dylan's a fantastic player. But Jamie George is going into that stratosphere of a world-class player. So he doesn't look like he can play.
He looks like the human ice cream.
Mate, he looks like you. He looks like you. He's got legs like me. He's got a belly like you. But I've picked Jamie George, fantastic player, and he's a great bloke as well.
He is, and obviously, looking at the forward pack, that's where England will try and dominate the game. In the backs, we've got some world-class backs, no more so than Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell is our best player comfortably. He's our most important player in the England team. He runs the show. He kicks the goals. He'll play 12. George Ford will be inside him at 10, but Owen Farrell, the detail that he brings to every game and that aggression and composure at the same time, for me, is phenomenal. He runs games week in, week out for Saracens. He's done it for England, the British Lions. He's our key man. And then you look outside Owen Farrell, who's going to fill that 13 shirt? For me, Henry Slade. He's been on absolute fire for Exeter. Like Sam Simmons, a young guy with a lot of power. He's now worked on his game immensely in terms of the nitty-gritty parts of the game, the defence, the hard lines, taking contact, etc. He's got the X factor, hasn't he? He's got the footwork. He's got that ability to beat someone one-on-one, the pace as well. It's time he got the 13 shirt.
Yeah, what I like about Slade now is his physicality, like you mentioned it there. So maybe a little bit soft last year, played a little bit of 10. Eddie Jones, Rob Baxter at Exeter's obviously got in his ear and says, look, mate, we want to see you start physically imposing yourself. Everyone sees what he can do off the boot. We saw in the semi-final last year against Saracens, halfway kick, he's 5 metres out. He's effectively won Exeter the Premiership off the back of that kick. But
pretty much.
Physicality has gone through the roof, so look, England are in a good place.
I think he deserves to start at 13. It's a really good attacking England team. We've only lost one game in about 19, I think it is, under Eddie Jones. It's going to be another victory for us at Twickenham.
It's going to be tough for Argentina.
Let's talk about Argentina then. So you've picked out a couple of forwards, or a forward and a back?
I've picked out a forward. I've got to be honest. Okay, I watch a bit of the Championship rugby, and maybe I wouldn't say it's arrogance or the fact that we don't respect them here, but the profile of the Argentinians isn't the same over here. We used to have a lot of the players, Marcos Ayerza, Albacete, who was playing over in Toulouse, is now at Racing. A lot of the guys play, but there's not many guys here that play in the Premiership. We've seen Marcelo Bosch and Juan Figueroa, both at Saracens. But for me, I've gone for someone who has played in the Premiership. I've gone for Augustin Creevy. Said his name right?
Augustin Creevy, yeah. You've done well there, Jim.
Augustin Creevy. It sounds very good, but look, he's their talisman. He's captain their team. Fantastic player, great player at Worcester. When the going gets tough, he's the man that steps up. Okay, he's physical. He's not the biggest. The guys, he's got big legs. He's got big arms. In fact, he's huge.
He's a monster.
Look at the size of him. So he's a fantastic player for them. Experience. He's got 60-odd caps. He's now playing over in Argentina. I've played against this man. Mate, he's passionate about it. And he in England, okay, if they think it's going to be an easy game, ask this man here.
Tough as old boots?
Tough as old boots, mate. Tough as old slippers.
There we go. And you look into the backs, you've only got to look at Nicolas Sanchez at 10 for them. He's a quality operator, lovely left foot as well. He can spark an attack. You just see him here. He's scoring a try against the All Blacks. He's a brilliant player, but the issue for Sanchez is what else has he got around him? Can they get parity up front? As you spoke about Augustin Creevy, they'll try and give them dominance up front, especially at scrum time. But can Nicolas Sanchez pull the right strings, put the ball in the right areas to try and put pressure on England? He's a quality operator. Just don't do too much yourself, Nicolas. You've got good players outside you. Tuchel at fullback as well is a good player. It's going to be an exciting game, but for me, England have got too much power. The Owen Farrell factor, he doesn't miss kicks at goal. England by 20, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. I think England will win, but you mentioned it there. Argentina have got a great pack. They're passionate about what they do. I don't think it's going to be as easy as that. I think England, okay, they're going in there having not played for a long time together collectively. I think it's going to be comfortable. I think it's going to be 10, 15 points.
So Jim's going 10, 15. I'm going 20.
Closer.
It's close. I think the last 10 minutes, England will run away with it. It'll be a tough 60, 70 minutes to start off with. Physical, hard, uncompromising. But for me, England to win by 20 points.
Just a great game of ruggers.
So we're going to head down to Cardiff now in the Principality Stadium. Wales are playing Australia. Jim, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I don't know. On paper, they both seem pretty average in terms of what they've done. We saw Wales in the summer tour. They went over to Samoa and Tonga in poor conditions with a scratch team and did quite well there. Australia, they've been rubbish all year. Been rubbish. Seen a few glimpses of hope for them. And then they go and beat New Zealand in the last game. So Australia are coming over to the UK, they're coming over to Europe, and they're confident. But I'm unsure about this one. Warren Gatland's back for Wales. He took a sabbatical to look after the Lions. There's been a lot of criticism for him. There's been huge criticism for Rob Howley as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Wales back. Sam Warburton's injured. But saying that, Australia have got a couple of injuries as well. You know, their main man, Pocock, he's not on tour.
Israel Folau's not there either. What's a really interesting stat for me, and you mentioned it about the Australians beating the All Blacks in their last game. Wales haven't beaten Australia since 2005. 12 consecutive victories for Australia. And they came here last year and won 32-8. Absolutely smashed the Welsh at the Principality Stadium. So for me, the form would suggest that Australia will continue that trend and win. You've picked out a Welsh forward that's pretty important to the trying to get the win.
Yeah, I have. So this man, Toby Faletau, missed a lot of last season for Wales. We saw him come back for the Lions. He was immense. I've watched him at Bath this season, and whenever he's played, he's been one of the best players, if not the best player on the pitch. He's their talisman. When he's fit, when he's firing, Wales do well. And with Faletau in your team, you always have an opportunity. So you talk about Billy Vunipola for England, you talk about Kieran Reid for New Zealand, how key these guys are. That man is the key man, especially with Warburton now. Ross Moriarty's on his way back. He played a game for Gloucester last week. Tipperick's a fantastic player. But this man, he's the one, if he's firing, they can win.
He's banging form, isn't he? So he's been playing really well for Bath. Then you look in the backs, you've got Rhys Webb at 9, the whole controversy. Is he going to be available for Wales next year? He's moving to Toulon. He's a live wire at scrum half. And then who do you play at 10? Do you play Dan Biggar? Reece Priestland's come back in some really good form as well. And they're talking about changing the way they play. So maybe they've got rid of Jamie Roberts, that big Warren ball. They talk about a big run around the corner and being physical. And they've got Owen Williams in, who could potentially play 12. So Jonathan Davis at outside centre, world class again on the Lions tour. Really tough game to call, actually, because it's two teams not in great form. Australia have the form in terms of beating the All Blacks last up. You're going to give us a quick prediction, though, Jim, are you? In fact, let's go to Australia. We haven't really talked about Australia, have we?
We haven't, and we should.
We should.
We should do. They've got some good players. So I'm gutted that Folau isn't coming.
Yep.
And he isn't going to be playing. He was immense in the last few games that I've seen. How high can he jump for the ball?
Well, same as...
Similar to me on a trampoline.
Exactly.
Exactly. So let's come on to Australia. So they've got some great players. None other than the main man, Hooper. Hooper's been captain in their team. We mentioned that Pocock's out injured. This man's a live wire. This man can do everything. He's a link man. He's great over ball. When you look at him, I've played against him. Doesn't look that big. You're like, man, I'm going to smash you.
And he did.
And he did, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, he did. It was the other way around. I thought I was going to smash him, but he smashed me. But looks like an Aussie. Looks like a surfer. Hell of a goatee as well.
Yeah, he's a great player. I can't wait to watch his battle with Justin Tipperick in open side. I'm sure Justin Tipperick will play in Sam Warburton's absence. In the backs, they've got some class as well. You talk about Israel Folau, he's not playing, but this man, Kurtley Beale, is an absolute superstar. He obviously played a fair bit of rugby over in the UK for Wasps last year, did really well. Ball in hand, he's one of the most exciting players to play for Australia. He can make things happen when the defences it looks like a brick wall. He makes breaks, he sidesteps in. He's got a lovely little kicking game as well to expose defences. And I think with him in attack, they're a real live wire. Off the back of that performance against the All Blacks, Australia for me are favourites. What's your prediction, Jim?
I'm going for Wales.
Are you?
Yeah, I think
controversial.
Wales, yeah, I think when Wales want to raise their game, they can. I think that the Welsh, they're under pressure. They did poorly in the Six Nations. There's been all this issue surrounding Gatland, like we've mentioned, and Rob Howley. They've got proud players. Alan Wynne-Jones, who is maybe one of the best players that's come through Wales, took a lot of criticism around the Lions tour, stepped up in performance. I watched him last week, or a couple of weeks ago, for the Ospreys against Saracen. He was belting, boys. So if he's up for the fight, Faletau's up for the fight. Rhys Webb's a world-class 9. Mate, they've got quality around the pitch.
So Jim's going Wales. I'm going to go for Australia by 5. It's going to be a tight game. I agree the Welsh will bring the passion, but I think that winning run for Australia is going back to 2005, the last game they lost. It's going to carry on one more. Australia to win for me.
So, Goody, we're going to get to our next game, Ireland versus the mighty South Africa. Two teams in kind of, well, I'm going to say mixed form. I'm not going to say that because Ireland are a fantastic team. We keep going back to the Lions and the form of some of their players. We saw O'Mahony.
Who?
O'Mahony?
I think you mean Omani.
O'Mahony. O'Mahony.
Armani.
Armani. We call him Armani. We saw him. We saw the controversy around Sean O'Brien, but he was fantastic. Conor Murray, Johnny Sexton. So the list is endless on the players that they've got and the calibre of players and what they've got. Fantastic team. The South Africans struggled a little bit, haven't they? They're getting back to where they used to be. But
well, they have. I think they started off in the Rugby Championship. They lost 57-0 to the All Blacks. They got absolutely destroyed. But then they bounced back and lost, I think it was 25-24 towards the end of the Rugby Championship. It might have even been their last game, actually. So they'll have got a bit more confidence from that. But ultimately, their record over in Ireland isn't great. I fancy the Irish to win. Johnny Sexton is going to be a big player for them. And you've picked out a forward for Ireland that is going to be crucial to winning the gain line, isn't it?
I have, yes I have. And this man, CJ Stander, again, we keep saying the word talisman. We've picked a couple of number 8s in Faletau before, but this man is what's good about Ireland. He gets them on the front foot. If you look at some of the stuff that Ireland have done over the recent games that they've played, especially in the Six Nations, this man 5 metres out is devastating. 10 metres out, he's making breaks, he's powerful, and he's playing against South Africa, his native country. And to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with CJ Stander. The injury to Billy Vunipola for the Lions tour, everyone thought this man potentially was going to step up to the mark. He didn't quite. You know, we've heard he's quite a shy character. He's only recently, the last couple of years, been able to speak English properly because Afrikaans is his native tongue. But look, he's a class act. Okay, he's going to want to kick on from the Lions tour. He's going to want to make a statement now going forward to the World Cup.
And obviously no greater motivation than him playing against South Africa, the country of his birth, for Ireland. I think he's going to have a big game. And in the backs, only one player to look out for me, Conor Murray. He's an outstanding individual. He had a brilliant Lions tour. He's the guy that makes this team tick. His partnership with Johnny Sexton at 9 and 10 is crucial. He runs the game. He also kicks exceptionally well, which puts so much pressure on the opposition. South Africa will be having to field his box kicks all day. That then gains momentum in terms of winning that territorial battle, forcing mistakes upon the opposition, and then your attacking game comes into it. So Conor Murray, for me, is a fantastic player. He's going to run the show for Ireland. Let's look at South Africa, though. Some big units in that team, isn't there?
Mate, there is. We've had Eben Etzebeth before. We've seen the arms on him look very similar to mine, but I've picked out another guy, Malcolm Marx. If anyone would have watched the Championship, this guy here had one of the best games of rugby I've seen any man, any woman, any person on the planet have against the All Blacks. He put in a wonder performance. If you get an opportunity to check it out online, YouTube, whatever you want, type in his name. Turnovers, carries, he was a one-man wrecking ball. So I picked him out just off the back of, I wanted to talk about him. He was that good.
He was very good.
A few months ago, I wanted to talk about him. But, you know, the South Africans, notoriously, they've got a big pack. They're physical, they're robust, and you know, they're going to cause Ireland problems up front, definitely.
They certainly will, and I think you look in the backs, Elton Yankees at 10, he's going to be a key man for them. Do they have enough firepower in the backs to trouble Ireland? I don't think they do. I'm going to go for an Irish victory by 10 points. Jim, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm similar to you. I think not many teams go to Ireland and win, and when they're on, they're on. I'm going to go 12 points.
What a topper.
Yeah, topper. That's what
there we go, that's what we think about Ireland against South Africa.
Okay then, Goody, now we're going to look at our last game. Maybe the best game we're going to see. France versus the mighty All Blacks. France, interesting team. You know, you don't know what you're going to get. And you know what you do get. When France play the All Blacks, they turn it on. And the All Blacks, for me, well, I was with Steve Hansen the other day. Look at me and Steve Hansen, the coach.
Showbiz.
Showbiz, mate. He says himself that he thinks the All Blacks bubble has burst.
Oh, really?
That's what he said. That doesn't mean that they're not going to win or that they're not the same team, but I think that the mystique and the aura, there's something just not quite right with the All Blacks at the minute.
Well, that's off the back of the summer, isn't it? Obviously, the Lions went over there. Everyone expected the All Blacks to win 3-0. Australia beat them a few weeks ago in the Rugby Championship. Their bubblers burst. That might be a bit strong, and coming from a head coach, I don't really like to hear that.
I'm just throwing it out there. Just
throw it out there.
He might not have said that.
The All Blacks do always raise their game to play over in Europe. They want to go unbeaten on the tour, but the French love to play the All Blacks. They get physical with them. They've got some big, powerful forwards. They haven't won since 2009. I think it's 10 straight for New Zealand against France, but this could be a little bit hairy. You never know which team's going to turn up for France. Big forwards. This man's pretty special, though, isn't he? This
man is very special. I've picked for France. Of course, I have another number 8, and why not?
You love number 8.
Mate, we're stating the obvious. With these players, we're stating the obvious, but we got to, because this man here, apparently, most highly paid player in the world.
Really?
He was at Northampton last year. He was brilliant. He, for me, kept Northampton up, potentially. Northampton were that poor. Very surprised that he's gone back. Then I found out that they were paying him over £1 million to go home. So realised that that's why he's gone back. Exactly. But look, he looked fit last year. He played some of the best rugby that I've seen. He's one of them players that you carry the ball, and as a coach you'd be like, just smash him, get him on the floor. Impossible. You put 2 players on him, you're not getting him down. You put 3 players on him, he'll get the offload away. So this man, big game player, big arms on him, big body, big bank balance. He's got it in him.
It's all about being big. Big King Louis Picamole, he's a star. Then you go and look in the backs. Baptiste Serran, the new live wire French scrum half.
He looks tiny.
He is tiny.
He looks like my son.
He looks like a 16-year-old boy, but my goodness, he can run, he can shift, he puts pressure on around the breakdown, he makes little sniping runs. You can see him here against Wales, trying to tear up as well. He will put energy into this game like no other French scrum half has in their life before. And they ran New Zealand close last year, the French did, in Paris. I think it's going to be really tough for them. It's the French team are the sort of team that take a couple of games to get going. You don't know how they're going to turn up. The French way is sometimes we fancy it, sometimes we don't. I think they'll be fired up to play against the All Blacks, but for me, I just feel that they haven't got enough firepower. Matthew Bastareaud in the centre, he's a big unit, but I think that they'll run round him. The All Blacks will run rings around him. And you've picked out a forward as well. Don't tell me it's another number 8 for New Zealand.
Of course it is. I've gone for Kieran Reid. My favourite player in the world. Look at him there, he's got a face like me. Look at him, so angry.
That is a good-looking guy.
He's so ready.
You, not so much.
Well, yeah, similar. I played against him. I've met him once. He played, I can't remember.
Did he know who you were?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
No. But look, you're talking about superstars. You know, we've spoken about all the guys before. We've spoken about Faletau. We've spoken about Picamoles, Hooper. You know, Maro Itoje, this guy, best player in the world.
Is he the best player in the world?
He's the best player in the world. You look at what he does when New Zealand are under pressure. Can't remember what game it was. Hit the line, offload out the back door. He does the right things at the right time, but he does it with power. And when you hear him speak, you know, when you see him in interviews, when you see them get defeated, you know, the humility of this guy. All Blacks produce the best captains in the world, of course they do. So this is a guy we all want to see. He's up against Picamoles, so that is going to be the battle of the weekend for me.
Yep.
But look, you know, they're star-studded across, but I just put it there because I like that picture.
It's a good picture.
It's a great picture.
And obviously, as a skipper, he's got over 100 caps for New Zealand now as well. So he is a monumental player. But for me, you say he's the best player in the world. I say there's a different one. Beauden Barrett. He's the most important player to this All Blacks team in attack.
Important, yes.
Most
not
important.
Best, not best.
And I think he's the best. The most important and the best. He is a guy that can make anything happen. When he's on form, when he's going forward, when that New Zealand attack is all encompassing, getting to the gain line, making the passes out the back, he can make anything happen. And he's the star man. If he can get his goal kicking right, because that's the big question.
That was my next point.
You were going to ask about goal kicking?
I was going to tell you. I wasn't going to ask him. I was going to tell you about goal kicking.
Well, I know a bit about goal kicking, and he's not the best goal kicker. But my goodness, what he makes up for in the 2 or 3 goal kicks he misses a game, he creates 2 or 3 tries. So he's a world-class player, a star. On his day, the best player in the world, but then a lot of the All Blacks are, aren't they?
Oh, mate, leave it alone. You and Beauden Barrett, you and the All Blacks. I can see.
I love him.
I can see. Kieran Reid's better.
OK, we'll agree to disagree.
Okay,
but
fine.
For me, I think the All Blacks, they're favourites. While they're not in great form, they've lost 2 games this year, drawn 1 with the Lions as well. They're a team that aura, as you said, of invincibility has gone. Teams know they can beat them. The French will fancy it, but I reckon the All Blacks by 15. What are you saying?
Never 15. I'm going to throw a cat amongst them pigeons. See? Like that.
That's kicking a cat.
No, it isn't. No.
Okay, don't kick cats.
No. It's sliding a cat into the alley to get him away from the pigeons. What I'm doing, I think France will win.
Do you think?
Mate, I just got a feeling. I think that they'll win. I think that the All Blacks guys are tired. They're missing some of their key players. Brodie Retallick hasn't travelled. Ben Smith's been rested. He's on a sabbatical. I don't know. They just don't look the same. I saw what the Barbars did at the weekend. Again, we mentioned it. They were full of All Blacks anyway, let's face it. But for me, France 0-1.
Yeah.
You know, from the 2011 World Cup when they should have, could have, basically got robbed. Okay, Richie McCaw was basically allowed to walk around with his mates and do whatever he wanted.
He was good though.
Mate.
Perfectly legal. Richie McCaw never cheated.
Never cheated. That day France got robbed and I think they owe them one. And having watched France, the way that they set up for the haka and they go against it, this is their game. This is their game. Their one game of the year. Their one game every 2 years. Whenever they play them, that means everything. So, mate, that's going to be a belter.
So Jim's saying the All Blacks to lose to France. I'm saying the All Blacks will beat France. So let's look at Scotland against Samoa, north of the border. Jim, you play for Scotland, even though you're English. Tell me a bit about this game.
Man, this is huge. This could be the game of the weekend.
Is he joking?
No, I am joking. But look, you know, Scotland are informed. Glasgow are doing unbelievably well in the Pro 14. Edinburgh not so much. So we're lucky that the Scotland team has basically got a lot of the Glasgow players and John Barclay and a couple more. But you know what? Samoa are a team notoriously that Scotland, that we've struggled against.
But you're English though, right?
No, I'm Scottish.
Okay, sorry.
Mate, listen to me, I'm Scottish. I'm wearing my kilt underneath my trousers. But they are. So the big, powerful teams are where we saw in the summer. So Scotland beat Australia. They smashed Australia. They smashed Italy. They went over to Fiji and they lost. Do you know what I mean? So this is the problem that Scotland have. People don't take them as seriously as they should, and that's the reason why. Once they start backing up performance upon performance, they've got Samoa this week. Most people should think, I hope that it's a foregone conclusion. We're seeing in the media and stuff the problems that Samoa are having off the pitch just to sustain getting a team out there with the finances, which is a real shame in itself. But look, Scotland need a big performance, and then they've got the mighty All Blacks the week after.
So Jim's obviously back in Scotland. I'll back them as well. Samoa will cause them difficulties, but Scotland should have enough to win.
We'll have enough.
We'll have enough to win. There you go. There's our previews for this week. Don't forget, tune in next week for more Autumn International previews.
And don't forget, BetSafe, there, okay, principal partner of there.
Saracens.
The mighty Saracens, my team. That's my team, that.